Okay, Katie, I have to talk to you about this because here we have Marjorie Greene, Jewish space laser lady. We have Donald Trump, who obviously massively unqualified for his job, criminal, um, and George Santos, who's still not been asked to resign by the head of the Republican Party. And I
Nope.
can't help but see these three people surrounded in this clown show in the year 2023, and then be sitting down with you and think, oh my God, why are you still not in office? Oh,
Well, yeah, no, I mean the standards are so different, right? For that side of that side of the aisle just doesn't have any. I think we can all see that that's the case. My resignation too was a personal choice. It was one that I decided to make because the impact of having your nude photos shared with the entire world and becoming the focus of that attempt by the right wing to basically make you, I don't know, their poster child of attack that they wanted to make against all Democrats and women and everything else. Like that was not something that I wanted to sit through and
no.
continue. I'm not somebody who wanted to be a politician my whole life. That was, a turn in course after Trump was elected because I felt like I had to do more. But you have to decide at a certain point, like, how much are you willing to put up with? And I wasn't. I just wasn't. So
And it's sort of interesting the way that, for all of someone like George Santos or Anthony DeVolders, for all of his lies and sort of the attacks, which are generally, obviously, I mean, some Republicans have critiqued him, but they're coming from, Democrats and liberals. Obviously, he's a man. There's a different tenor, even on both sides. There's a different tenor when someone's, has that privilege. But you don't see like him exposing the massive death threats, the insane, all the stuff that he's done is like really like really out there and in your face. It's not what was done against you, obviously, but it's also like that, just the tone of it. It's personal, but it's only personal because he made it personal by lying over and over and over
right.
again.
Well, and I mean, just to see, like, he's perfectly comfortable going out in public and walking around and isn't
Yes.
he's defensive about it, but like, what are you accusing me of a crime? But he's not afraid. And the fact that he's not afraid, like, that was a huge part of my decision to resign. Like, my family was getting followed around.
Yeah.
I mean, it was disgusting. My office had suspicious packages sent to them with like white powder in them. We had so many disgusting messages, emails, phone. The voicemails were particularly horrifying. And I don't know. I just don't think he's getting that. Like,
Yeah.
maybe, but I feel like,
No,
yeah,
no. I mean, again, I think we don't generally like, we dabble in like memes and, I guess sometimes calling, I mean, we should call Congress and our elected officials, but like not a lot of death threats
no,
generally lobbed from Democratic voters and their base. I guess I want
not
to
really
ask
our
you,
vibe. Yeah, no,
not
I
really
agree.
our vibe. I want to ask you about that double standard though, when it comes to like, the right really ducked under. The Me Too movement happened after Trump was elected. I believe it probably wouldn't have happened had Trump not won, because it was
Yeah.
so clear we just elected, the Me Too in chief. Um, and the right has had this attitude of, oh, I'm just never going to admit when I've done something wrong, ever.
Mhm.
And their party doesn't ask them to resign. Their party doesn't put pressure on them. Their party supports them. You had Matt Schlapp, right, the head of CPAC, only recently
Yep.
being accused of sexual assault against a staffer, and that's just he's just there. He's still there.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they've proven is that deny is the most effective strategy, right? Because and then
Yes.
they turn it on its head to say that people are persecuting them, and this is just, I don't know. I think we genuinely, and I say we meaning Democrats, have a much more realistic sense of our own fallibility. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just me. I'm sure there are plenty. Yeah, it's just like, if you
Well,
do
I think that's
you
what's
mess
like
up, own it.
For sure. I mean, well, accepting reality is generally part of like you know, a liberal pro-democratic mindset, right? Like
Right, right.
denying that reality is everything to do with the folks who are like denying people abortion rights, taking away books that talk about real things that happen in history, all that
Mhm,
crap.
mhm,
When all this happened to you, right? When your ex-husband, you know, effectively worked with a right-wing news outlet to expose revenge porn and nude
mhm,
images of you,
mhm.
what what support did you receive from inside Congress?
I will say that this is a little bit of an, underemphasized fact, and a lot of people kinda get it wrong, but not a single person from within the Democratic caucus, so
Mhm.
nobody in Congress, that was a Democrat, told me that I should resign, and in fact, I had a lot, including the speaker, say that I should not resign, and because they've seen scandals, right? You've been there a long enough time,
Right.
you watch it happen, and people survive them. You kinda go low, you go under the radar for a while, you wait it
Right.
out, and I don't know, I think that politically, there's a pretty good chance I could have survived it. There was a poll actually after I left. It was like the next year, and it showed that I was still beating the Republican in the district, even after the scandal had been like well absorbed into the news and everything. So uh yeah, no, I didn't have anybody tell me to resign. So there's that's but I
But
also
did you
didn't
have
have a lot of people coming out publicly and supporting me, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing that we aren't I don't think we're as good about defending our own. And sometimes that's a good thing because we shouldn't always defend our own. But we don't circle the wagons and protect in the same way.
Right, and especially, with the like, especially online, right? It's the same thing of like, you know, you see someone who you like, who you believe, you know, is your friend, maybe getting like brigaded by a bunch of trolls, whatnot.
Yep.
And if you try to defend, then you sick them on yourself, right?
Hmm.
It's just sort of
Hmm.
like, you know, distracting the hornet's nest for a little bit.
Yep.
And it's really messed up that it dissuades people from supporting their friends. And, you know, I mean, like, I guess what I was thinking, you know, for a minimal, like lesser extent, you know, the head of Project Veritas, former head, like sicked his little trolls on me. I just muted them. It was fine. You know, who knows? Maybe someone's stalking me right now. Yay. But like, but I didn't get any support. You know what I mean? I had done a
Hmm.
story for it. This is for TYT, and I'm not trying to call out TYT. It doesn't matter. But I'm like, oh shit, dude. Like, if anything really happened, like this is the ghoul of all trolling ghouls. How am I being supported? Right? Like,
Right.
how are you as a congressperson being supported? Or just as a civilian being supported when these kinds of threats are happening? Because that's the other piece of this. It's kind of like, oh, you're on your own, do your own PR, do your own security, do your own, you know, and I think
Yep.
AOC's called this out as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad she has, and that she's drawn some attention to it because truly, I worry about her safety all the time. I think that, and she's become less of that public face of that, that the Republicans are loving to attack just because they have Biden and Hunter and all
Mhm.
that. But she's so recognizable as a villain to the right that when the first thing I thought about well, not the first thing, but one of the first things I thought about when January 6th was happening was, oh my God, I hope she gets somewhere safe because if they got to her, it would have just been horrible. She's tiny.
Yeah.
She's yeah, and they don't give you security. They don't give you your own security. And yeah, anyway,
Yeah, and then
it's
when
bad.
she actually openly spoke about it, which again, I think is also does feel more like a first, you know, to show that vulnerability. And
Hmm.
I think more women in office, which I know you're all about with your new pack, like that's really important. Actually speaking about your fears, speaking about, you know, your past traumas, you know, and I know you who've had your life, yeah, thrust into public view have had to do this and talk about that. And that takes an incredible amount of bravery. Um, and I wanted to talk about like what's so chilling about your case to me, I think, is that it was this outlet red state media and
Hmm.
like the proliferation of online right-wing rags
Yep.
has made it such that like they're kind of claiming media status
Oh,
when they've just
100%.
when
Yeah.
they're just kinda like some dude threw together like a glorified blog. So
Blog.
I know that that's how you actually lost because you sued them,
Mhm.
and you lost that suit because they were protected under some media
First
statute. Was that
Amendment. Yep. Yeah.
right?
They claimed First Amendment protection, and the judge basically went for it. So in California, we have something called anti-slap laws it's meant to prevent frivolous lawsuits against the media when people don't like what they have to say.
Right.
Uh, that is not the same thing as publishing your naked images without your consent, um, which is which
It's
is supposed to be
insane.
protected in California. That was passed several years ago, but there's never been a case before mine where those two laws were kind of pitted against each other, right? And the
Mhm.
judge decided, and I'm sure it's because of the constitutionality piece, that the First Amendment prevailed and the anti-slap laws prevailed. And so my case was dismissed before it was ever heard. And I was ordered to pay the media outlets that I had sued, which is a totally, I can castle. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bitchuation. Fucked. It's fucked. It's totally fucked. And so that's why I'm living with my mom, because I had to declare bankruptcy after that whole thing when I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees that I was ordered to pay. And so yeah,
No.
it's just been back to your point, the First Amendment protection shouldn't apply. It's not the press. You shouldn't get to be called the press just because you call yourself the press. Like
Right.
I feel like there's got to be some kind of standard, and I don't know how you draw that line. That's not my honestly that's not my job to figure out, but I know that it's not right that
Yeah.
these
No, because you can't. I mean, look, it's one thing to be like, okay, in a perfect world, in a vacuum, again, the way sort of libertarian brain works, or whatever. Like the First Amendment would only be like, it's like, I get it. You don't want to infringe on that. But in
yeah.
practice, you just allowed, a vindictive, abusive, former partner to work with this so-called media outlet and publish photos of you, like
And
without.
the person who was the supposed journalist was also the former campaign manager of one of my Republican rivals. So
Right.
like, and the other person who I had sued in conjunction with, spreading the images and everything, he's a right-wing blogger, radio host, whatever, who is the chair, or was the chair at the time, of the Republican Party locally. So it's like, how can you say that this is not political? This is not just about free speech in any way, shape, or form. This is about something that's fundamentally wrong. And one of the areas I've sort of focused on since I left is on really developing, helping to develop a coalition and being part of a coalition, a global coalition addressing image-based sexual abuse. And because
Yeah.
we still don't even have a federal law basically criminalizing revenge porn, and it needs to happen.
Yes, absolutely. And I even feel like, and this is I mean, thanks to your work and also your case, that like just since 2019, I feel like we have way more knowledge of the of like revenge porn, of the ways how terrible it was. And I think by everyone, I mean, yes, you did resign on your own accord because of yeah, I cannot imagine the toll. But I think everyone looks at it and is like, "This was so fucked. This was the most fucked, awful case." And it should not have happened to you or nor anyone. Um,
Yeah, and I do think that I genuinely believe that most women, if it happened to, I don't think it's very likely to happen to another female elected official, just because of how, like, they might try, but I
mhm,
don't think that they will have the same success at spreading the images all over the place, because I think people are more afraid of the consequences backfiring, which is probably why I would have won if I ran for reelection, because I think it would have it genuinely backfired. I had a lot of Republicans even say, like, they shouldn't have been able to do that to you.
mm.
So I don't
What
know. I
do you
mean,
have
we
any
can play that
regrets
out.
about of not running again?
I think regret is a tough word. I have certainly had times over the years that I've wandered in that direction, right? Like, but I have a son now that would, and he wouldn't have happened if I were in office, and you know, um, I just don't believe that would have been possible. But
Yeah.
um, because I had fertility issues previously, and I think that being in office and all the stress that your body's going under, I don't think I would have been able to overcome that. And so regret is tough, and I don't wish that I was there right now at all. But I do.
You didn't want to be in the Capitol on January 6th. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuationroom. Do it.